If you are a fan of my content, you know I'm a positive Pete person. I like to look on the bright side of pro wrestling, but there's always an exception to every rule. So for all those people that go,
Simon, you need to be more negative
every now and then, well, go and get your cup of cocoa, Chief, because that's what we're going to do today. And really, it's not that negative. It's just every now and then something comes along and I don't like it because people seem to forget this. I don't just like everything. People go, oh, you're too nice. Niceness doesn't mean weakness, mother flubber. And instead, I just go with what my heart and what my tum-tum tells me. And as you probably saw yesterday around about 3 p.m. UK time, Triple H or whoever, WWE didn't announce. Actually, they announced two things. One, they announced the winner of the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments gets a world championship at SummerSlam, which I'm totally down for. But they also, talking of SummerSlam, said in 2026, it's going to be a 2-night event. And I looked at that poster and I went, man, that ain't for me, Bobby. I don't want it. Now, ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's just pro wrestling. I have real problems in my life that I have to worry about. But even when WrestleMania went for 2 nights, I actually did a video about this. I think the year before it did go to 2 nights. I wasn't massively up for the thing, although I was torn because, of course, WrestleManias had started to go 8-9 hours long. This is the worst thing I'll ever say. But I remember being at WrestleMania 35 when it was Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair. Before that match, I was tired, I was worn out, it was raining, and I just felt a little bit miserable. Now, shame on me, because I should have found a way to enjoy that more, but sometimes you can't change your brain. So when all of a sudden we got through the awful pandemic and they did decide to do it 2 nights, and after seeing it in practice, I actually think it's worked wonders. Like, I was really, really lucky to be at the one when Cody Rhodes came back, and then they had the one with Stone Cold Steve Austin, then we had the one with Cody Rhodes finally winning the WWE title, and all of them have had such good, here's a terrible word, synergy between the Saturday and Sunday that it absolutely was the right decision, and more fool on me for not seeing that, which means I absolutely could be wrong about SummerSlam too. I also, just because it's always a talking point, absolutely do think that the Saturday night main event is a main event, like the Kevin Owens Steve Austin biography or A&E documentary aired the other day, talking about Steve Austin's return. And when he is discussing being told that he will be main eventing night 1, WrestleMania Saturday, he's almost in tears. This is Stone Cold Steve Austin. So if Stone Cold Steve Austin is almost in tears, I think all of us fans can agree that it is a big deal. And let's not forget that at one point, CM Punk was going to main event with Seth Rollins, and he was totally cool with that too. So me personally, I'm putting that to bed. Maybe we'll even do a video on it. But the reason I think you want to keep 2 nights unique to WrestleMania is because then it feels special. It's like anything, right? It's the law of diminishing return. If I go out and give somebody, I don't know, a piece of chocolate, should you want a chocolate, you can be like, oh wow, I can't believe I got a free piece of chocolate. But if I'm giving you a piece of chocolate every single day, by day number 362, you'll be like, man, I don't want any chocolate anymore. Why can't you bring pizza? I do have the press release up here though, and it does say Minneapolis to host 2026 SummerSlam. And don't forget, I think that WrestleMania 41 was meant to come from the US Bank Stadium, which could be why we've announced this so early, right? Minneapolis were probably like, excuse me, you just moved it to Vegas, even though we did have a deal. This is probably a make good, because I don't even know where the 2025 SummerSlam is coming from. And they do mention here that it is the first ever 2-night one, but I'm not sure it ever says that it's the only one. So there's every chance that 2025 may be a 2-night too. I mean, it says, in addition to the massive 2-night event, WWE and MNSEE, who I guess is the Minnesota Happy Community, will deliver a host of fan and community events in the days leading up to SummerSlam and after it too. So we're going to get Raw, we're going to get SmackDown, and we'll probably get a big NXT. So I'm sure it will be good, and I'm sure we'll have a bunch of matches there. But there is no way that if you start having a 2-card SummerSlam, a 2-day SummerSlam, then all of a sudden you're not going to start thinking, well, maybe we can have a 2-day Royal Rumble. Now, actually, the Royal Rumble could be justified way more than SummerSlam, because a big criticism when it comes to the Royal Rumble is that having the men's and the women's can get a little bit tiring because, of course, they're long matches. Now, it was way long overdue before we introduced the women's Royal Rumble. I mean, if you think about it now, why was there just a men's Royal Rumble? I've always said it would be cool if we came up with not another event, but you move the women's Royal Rumble to a different part of the year. We don't have to do it now because we've got the Queen of the Ring, but that could have been the event that you had to set up the women's title match at SummerSlam, but whatever. So if you did do one on the Saturday, one on the Sunday, I actually think that'd be super duper fun. But even then, when you can make sense of it, it is going to diminish what we do at WrestleMania, because WrestleMania is the show of shows, it's the granddaddy of them all, it's the showcase of the immortals. So you want to make sure that it feels completely separate to the other pay-per-view premium live events that you do have. But as soon as you start taking attributes from that and applying it over a Royal Rumble, a SummerSlam, a Survivor Series, whatever it may be, of course it's not going to feel the same. Like, if your big trip for the year is WrestleMania, all of a sudden maybe you start looking at locations and thinking to yourself, well, maybe I should go to SummerSlam. And I do understand why WWE are doing this. They've made it very clear, especially since they've been taken over by TKO or Endeavor, however you want to say it, is that they really desperately want SummerSlam to be WrestleMania Part 2. I'm pretty sure if they could change it to WrestleMania Summertime Fun, they would do it, but they can't because it's a terrible name and nobody would buy the damn thing. And of course I need to see it in practice. I just don't think we need to do it. Like, when the WrestleManias were getting to 8-9 hours, hours. It was like, what are you doing? You are a creative company. You can do whatever you want. So you should be able to sit down and figure out, well, we don't want to go longer than 4.5, 5 max. I mean, even then I would try and trim it down a little bit. So what do we want to get across? What are our stories? Who are the superstars that we're pushing? And if we need to do something like the Andre the Giant Battle Royal to feature everyone, awesome. I think if you do bust your ass for WWE, you should be on the biggest show of the year. But if you then go over to SummerSlam and you're doing it over a Saturday and Sunday, I just think you can be a little bit more lax with these stories where you can go, well, we can just do it there, we can just do it there, because we have all this time to kill. And let's not forget, when we do go back to this WrestleMania especially, there is a lot of dead air. I would rather we just got rid of the dead air and we say SummerSlam is, let's just say, 5 hours long, which again is a little much for my taste. But if the other pay-per-views throughout the year are 3 hours and then you bump SummerSlam up to 5 hours, I don't think I'd mind that. What I struggle with personally, and again, it's a personal thing, it's a Simon Miller thing, is if you are doing pay-per-views every single month and every one of them is 5 hours, it's like sometimes not every single thing needs to be 5 hours. But it's more of a gut reaction. It's more of a visceral reaction. I'm not going to pretend otherwise because I don't have any other information. I don't have any other evidence, but it's just not something I wanted to see as a fan. There you go. I wouldn't even call that negative, but most people think I just storm around going, yes, everything is great, which is not true. I said at the start of this video, I just like to try and find the good things in wrestling because it's my entertainment time. And if I'm not doing that, I just think it's a waste of life. So if we do decide to do this in 2025, I will raise a bigger eyebrow because there is every chance, and this is a dumb thing for me to say, the one in 2026 is a off SummerSlam or a special SummerSlam or an exclusive SummerSlam because, again, maybe there was some political business stuff with Minnesota and their tourist board because they were going to go there for WrestleMania 41 before they changed their mind for whatever reason. I mean, maybe Vegas just offered more money. So you say, okay, you want that 2-day event. You want to make sure everyone's coming in and visiting wherever you can do in Minnesota. I have no idea. So we'll make sure we try and have the influx of people and then you make the money, which is what everything is all about. But once again, we just hit the nail on the head. If it's a massive financial success and they look at all the numbers and the ratings and the merchandise and they decide, oh my gosh, people love this, do you really think we're going to get to 2027 and not do it? Of course we will. Now, this is where I will flip it on a dime and I will look for the positives. If all of a sudden we do start doing 2 or weekenders when it comes to SummerSlam, it means potentially, even though Nick Khan said otherwise, you may be able to take a WrestleMania and send it around the world. Now, when they were going through their pay-per-views, they said they'd rather not do this and they would rather keep WrestleMania in North America. But if the endeavor, terrible word, to try and turn SummerSlam into WrestleMania Part 2 does continue and you do start getting in that direction, let's not forget that 2024 SummerSlam, I think, has sold either 40,000 or 50,000 tickets. Let's go with the conservative 40,000. That's still amazing. That's still arena numbers. I mean, 40,000 tickets, 40,000 people is absolutely incredible. But if you're taking your 2-day extravaganza and you're doing it there, and all of a sudden it does have that same hoopla around it, maybe WrestleMania could come to London. Maybe it could go to Saudi Arabia. Again, I do not want that for obvious reasons, but it has been floated out there, and I don't think that's an accident. Although I tell you, I don't massively want WrestleMania to come to London. Like, of course I do. I'd love it in Wembley Stadium. But I'm in a very blessed position, right? Because my job is covering wrestling, I get to fly around the world to see WrestleMania, and that's the coolest thing ever. I know, I'd get mad at me too. What a stupid asshole thing to say. But I mean, realistically, just to double down on it, of course I would love it down the road from me in a venue that I've been to time and time again, and maybe they wouldn't even hold it at Wembley. I don't know. But I really do need to see how this is going to play out. But on paper, and like I say, as a visceral reaction, I just don't think it's a good idea. And it kind of ties into the company that WWE is going to become. Like, loads of people said this. When it was Endeavor that bought the company to go under the TKO umbrella, everyone said, look what they're doing with UFC, which is totally what they're going to do with WWE. And the biggest way we're seeing that at the moment is because we are merging departments together. We are seeing so many people lose their jobs. Now, I don't know all of their names. More shame on me. I probably should. But somebody lost their job this week. They'd been with the company like 20 years or something absolutely crazy. And that's because the WWE aren't controlling this anymore. It will be somebody in a big office tower somewhere just going salary, 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 salary. We have 2 people doing this job. Why on earth would we keep them both on? You wouldn't. They should do, but that's not how the world works. And I also believe whoever is in control of live tours or something like that, or, you know, booking these buildings, one of the guys has gone as well. All I remember is the guy they've kept on, his name is almost Dropkick, but it's not. When you look at it, because we're wrestling nerds, it looks like Dropkick, and then you realize it's not Dropkick. dropkick at all, and you get super duper sad. So the WWE that you used to know is going to change drastically. I mean, that's why we have the Prime logo slap bang in the middle of the ring. It means absolutely nothing because Vince McMahon is a terrible, awful person. But one of the good things, not that it makes any difference to anything that he did do, is keeping the mat sacred. It just looks nicer. Now, I will be honest with you, when I saw it at WrestleMania, or whatever the first event they did do it at, it wasn't as garish as I thought. And in terms of keeping things quite nice and simple, I was actually more of a fan of it than I thought. Not a fan of it, but it wasn't like, oh, my eye is taken away. But it certainly didn't distract me. The fact that it was just like a black and white logo or a grey logo, I thought was the right idea. But we're going to get way more of that stuff. Like throughout WrestleMania, how many times did we get a match that was like, oh, this is sponsored by Cinnabon, whatever it was. So you have Sheamus and Gunther. I mean, it wasn't there. But you have Sheamus and Gunther kicking the crap out of each other, and then there's just like a cartoon cake in the background eating itself. And of course, in the moment, we all kind of ignore it because we like the stories and we like the wrestlers. And if it is a particularly good angle, like the Cody Rhodes stuff, we just buy into that. But I will bet you, come WrestleMania 41, I think it will come that soon. Let's say we have 6 matches on a Saturday and 6 matches on a Sunday. Every single one will be promoted or advertised by a certain company. And that ties into SummerSlam as well, because if you're making these huge revenue streams from WrestleMania, you can then start saying, hey man, you see this one that we do in the spring or the winter, whatever it's called, not the winter, but come summertime, obviously, the SummerSlam, maybe you can then reach out to other people that are more focused on sunshine type products. I don't know what it would be. This is why I got fired from that job. I'm not very good at it. But when I look at it from a purely fan perspective and what I want and I don't want from pro wrestling, I don't like the idea of a 2-day SummerSlam because it's just too much wrestling. And less is more is a rule of thumb that wrestling has never been good at abiding to, because again, that's not where the money is. Like, even if we pop over to AEW, does AEW need 3 shows? Of course they don't, but you can bet your ass that when Rampage gets invented and Collision gets invented, the WBD or wherever the coffers are coming from is putting more money into AEW's pocket. So of course they were going to do it. I would do it too. If somebody rang me up right now and said, Simon, if you double the amount of content you're doing on YouTube and we'll pay you X amount of money, I mean, it'd be hard to find the time, but I would do it, even though you probably be like, 2 a days, Simon, nobody needs to hear from you once, because obviously I'm all over What Culture Wrestling as well. I need to calm down, but if the money is there, we as human beings are tempted by it. So we do have to see how this is going to play out. I mean, this year's SummerSlam is especially interesting because we could do Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. We could be doing Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. I mean, given that the King of the Ring winner now gets a World Championship shot, that's what I would do. And by the time you've seen this video, SmackDown will already be done, and maybe even that pay-per-view. So we'll already know. And then Logan Paul is in his hometown. It's Cincinnati, I think we're going to for this year's SummerSlam. So they're clearly going to do something big with him. And if they are confident that he's going to get booed, which he probably will do, you could do the LA Knight match and have LA Knight win the championship. So what day does that go over? What else are we going to put in there? Is Rhea Ripley going to be back? Because I presume that Liv Morgan may be the champion by then, or maybe we'll do Lyra Valkyria versus Liv Morgan. If Liv Morgan becomes a champion and Lyra Valkyria wins the Queen of the Ring, is that enough to justify having a 2-match card? Because the good thing about WrestleMania is there are so many matches we care about. Like this year, we haven't even mentioned Sami Zayn versus Gunther, Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. There'll be other matches I'm not thinking about right now. I mean, the big tag team match on night 1. But how many months after it is? It's April, May, June, July, August. 4 months afterwards, are you able to hype a card up for that much? Especially because in people's brains, they don't see SummerSlam in the same way. They just don't. WrestleMania is the one that people go, I'm going to have my holiday here, I'm going to save up all my money. So to get the same kind of allure when it comes to a SummerSlam, even though it has been around since, 1988, I think was the first one. Maybe I'm being a bit early or a bit late there. It still doesn't have the same magnetism, because if it was going to, it would already have done. That's because WWE never treated it like WrestleMania. It was just a bigger event in the summer. And the only reason it's called the Big Four is because it was one of the first few pay-per-views that WWE had. Then we had the In Your House cards, and then it became like Backlash and Payback, Unforgiven and Armageddon and all that kind of stuff. But I really would like to know what you guys think about this, because there's probably some positives that I'm not even thinking about here. And the other issue we do have, and look, this is the same for all media and entertainment at the moment, is that ticket prices will go up and merchandise will go up, because the bigger you promote your event and the more you can say, well, man, this is a big deal, obviously you're going to whack an extra few zeros on there as well. And it's all about flights and hotels, and obviously the surrounding area will increase their prices too. And I'm sure they would have done that anyway for a SummerSlam, because you know that WWE is going to be in town and you're a business owner. That's just what people do for good or bad. But if all of a sudden we are trying to treat it like a WrestleMania, everything is going to be more expensive. So please, seriously, let me know. Would you go to a 2-night SummerSlam? Would you watch a 2-night SummerSlam? Would it be the same kind of must-see event that WrestleMania is? And maybe you prefer it because it would be in the summer. And if you were in Philadelphia back in April, you're probably out there like me on night one, especially going, man, I'm so damn cold. It was pretty damn freezing. Of course, I want to make it very clear. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. It's just a wrestling show. You know what I mean? There's other things that we should focus on, but I still think it's an interesting point of discussion, and I would love you to have that discussion down there. Also, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Hit the bell ding-dings. You know when videos are going live. There will be a video on the screen. Make sure you click that. It's just more of my wrestling musings. That's what this channel is all about. But it's also about fitness. GorillaMind.com/Simon. These are the supplements I use, and I'm in love with them twice at the moment because, again, I just did my last match tour in the East Coast of America. I would not have been able to keep up some of my gym stuff without their awesome products. And you can believe me, you cannot believe me, I don't care, but I will advocate them until the day that I die. Patreon.com/Simon316 is Simon316 on all social media as well, including Threads, which I've started doing recently again. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. Simon Miller, if you would like a cameo. I've done loads of these recently, and everyone is a bundle of joy. So please keep bringing me those. And of course, Samson Athletics and Pro Wrestling Tees. If you'd like some of my merchandise, that is always cool as well. But again, let me know your thoughts on SummerSlam. We shall have to see if we do it in 2025. Thankfully, we're not doing it in 2024. So maybe next year I'm not even watching wrestling anymore because I've got into snooker. I don't think Americans really like snooker. I should have said pool goodbye.